Hello, welcome to Dio Relation Tales. Please subscribe my channel. My family was always very devoted to religion. I, like all my siblings, were raised under a system of very strict rules based on Christian values. When I was a teenager, I couldn't drink alcohol or go to parties, much less think about having a boyfriend before I came of age. Anyway, with this, I just want to tell you a brief summary about how suffocating and limited my life was until I was able to become independent. I say become independent, but to be honest, I went from being under the yoke of my parents to submitting to that of my husband, a man from a good family raised under strict Christian values just like me. The truth is that I wasn't even physically attracted to him, but I agreed to marry him because I thought that way I could be free. However, I was wrong. My married life was almost as miserable as it was when I was single, with the addition that I also had to fulfill my marital duties. I became the model wife Beck Aus. That is what my parents taught me, but I was really unhappy until Pastor Michael came to the community church. As you can already guess, I have not missed a single Sunday in my life at church since I can remember. That was a family habit that was ingrained in me, and no matter how much I wanted to, I couldn't change it. Furthermore, Robert, my husband, also has the same habit, so it became a habit. In short, going to church on Sundays in the small community where we lived was quite a social event. People usually wear their new clothes and groom themselves to stand out in front of their neighbors. They take great care of appearances, and any behavior outside the conventional or what religion dictates is socially reproached. No one wants to be in the spotlight, least of all me, but I didn't know that I would fall madly in love with the pastor, and what is much worse, I would want to get into his pants. For a long time we had a pastor in a community church, the kind Sir Todd, an octogenarian who used to fall asleep giving the sermon, but no one was able to leave the church. We simply stayed there like sheep until the altar boy woke him up and he began to read the same psalm again for the third time. There weren't many distractions in this community, so that was better than staying home on the weekends. Luckily for us and my particular fortune, Sir Todd was finally removed from his duties as pastor of the church and was replaced by Michael, a young charismatic man who was too handsome to surrender to CABSY. Fortunately for him, I was willing to give him the experience of being with a woman. The day Michael arrived at the church, no one expected him. All the benches were occupied as usual, and we expected Sir Todd to enter, followed by his assistants, which took him a long time because he walked very slowly. Instead, Michael entered, and it was as if he had brought new airs of hope and youth to this community that remained asleep. As soon as he entered the church, he greeted everyone present with enthusiasm. I think the men's ego was a little hurt since all the women turned to see him, and that was the most participatory mass I had ever witnessed. His way of giving sermons was not boring, but quite the opposite. He told each teaching as if he had lived it himself in a single hour. A day was not enough to enjoy listening to it. At the end of the mass, Robert wanted to leave immediately like the rest of the men in the church, but I asked him to wait for me in the car. I told him that it seemed impolite to leave without congratulating him on his new position, but the truth is that I was dying to be close to him. Other women must have thought the same as me, but only a few dared to approach me. When I was close enough to him, I could smell his perfume. It smelled very good, like a mixture of soap, mint, and eucalyptus. Hello, my name is A. I just wanted to congratulate you on your new position, and thank you for considering our community. I really enjoyed the mass. I can't wait to see you again next Sunday. I mean to come again and listen to the teachings of our Lord, I told him, and D felt like a fool for making a fool of myself like that. Pain, a biblical name, means full of grace and compassionate. I'm not surprised you wanted to get closer instead of just retreating. I thank you, it is an honor for me, and I will be delighted to see you among the ranks next Sunday. I hope he answered me, and although I did hear his words for a moment, I had gotten lost in his gaze. From that moment on, the weeks seemed eternal while I waited for Sunday to arrive to see Michael again. Then I remember that some women used to engage in voluntary activities in the church brotherhood, such as making preparations for special masses, rehearsing choirs, and so on. That never caught my attention because, coming from a family as restrictive as mine, the least I wanted was to spend my free time at church. However, Michael's presence changed everything. I joined the group of women who work voluntarily in the brotherhood, although Robert did not really agree, but he did not worry much about what I did as long as he came home and had everything in order: clean clothes, food ready, and a loving woman to warm his bed. As long as I could spend more time with Michael, the first would continue playing my role as a model wife without a problem. On my first day as a volunteer, we had to do some crafts to decorate the church because soon the children of the community would have their first communion, so I joined the group of ladies who cut out and glued all kinds of papers in the shape of crosses, chails, and pigeons. How glad you have decided to join our ranks, Michael said as soon as he saw me. I love helping, the pleasure is mine, I told him and smiled at him. I'm sure you like that gesture, because his face lit up and he smiled back at me. I carried out my duties, a little disappointed because Michael only occasionally stopped by to see how we were doing when I joined the group. I was hoping to be able to share more with him, but he seemed to be busy with his own things, so I started to think that maybe I had made the wrong decision. Now I would be locked in the guild every afternoon, and it wouldn't even be worth it. When I was about to leave, I heard Michael calling me in the distance, and I turned to see him approaching me. And sorry, I don't want to delay you, I just wanted to let you know that I am meeting someone who can help me integrate better with the community. Not only am I the new pastor, I am just moving to this place, and it would be very helpful if you could accompany me in that familiarization process. I think that if I get to know the true interests that move these people, I will be able to positively influence them. Do you think I can count on you for this? It would be additional time in addition to what you already dedicate to the brotherhood. I understand if you are busy or you can't, he said, and I immediately interrupted him. I'm dear girl, count on me, I told. Later I would see how to organize myself to accomplish everything at home, but I was not going to reject this opportunity to be alone with Michael. Magnificent. Shall we begin, he asked, and I nodded. So we headed to his office. I had never entered that part of the church before. It is supposed to be reserved for the pastor and his assistants. There were boxes everywhere, and although Michael had only been performing his duties for a short time, the place was already permeated with his smell, the one that I liked so much. Sorry for the mess, I'm still getting settled. Can I offer you something to drink? I have water, juice, and wine. Don't worry, it's not the consecration one, he told me, laughing, and I laughed too. I want the wine, thank you, I told him, and he poured 2 glasses. So we sat down to talk. Sorry for the mess, I'm still getting settled. Can I offer you something to drink? I have water, juice, and wine. Don't worry, it's not the consecration one, he told me. Laugh, and I laughed too. I want the wine, thank you, I told him, and he poured 2 glasses. So we sat down to talk. So what do people think of their new pastor? Asked. To be honest, men are jealous of him, I told him, and he laughed. I don't know what could be causing that impression on them. Said, come on, that's clear, women love you, they are delighted with you. I would say they even have a kind of crush, I said, and he laughed even harder. Really, and does that include you too? Asked. Well, I would be lying if I told you that is not the reason why I joined the brotherhood. You are a charming man, I told him, and I think I blushed because I started to feel heat building up on my face, although maybe it was the wine I appreciated. The truth is that when I proposed you to do this, I hoped you would say yes. There is something about you that attracts my attention, and I enjoy being in your presence. I know this is not right, but he said I also enjoy it a lot. Don't be sorry. I appreciate you taking the initiative to invite me. Listen, I can't stay much longer today, but I'll try eat to lunch tomorrow. What do you think? I interrupted him. I don't know if it's a good idea for them to see us together for so long. It's a small town, and people talk. He answered, I know a place. It's just outside the town. We could eat and talk there every day if you want. I'm usually alone until my husband comes home at night. I told him and wrote down the address of a motel on a piece of paper. Okay, see you tomorrow, answered. I was restless since I left the church that day, but I tried to hide it from Robert so that he wouldn't suspect anything. The next day I was dedicated to the kitchen, leaving dinner ready for my husband and bringing a good lunch to the pastor. When everything was ready, I dressed up and left for the motel. I didn't tell him what room I would be in, so I kept an eye out, and when I saw him arrive, I motioned for him to come in. Hello, when you gave me the address, I didn't expect it to be a motel, he said, blushing as he entered. Sorry, it was the most discreet place I could think of, I answered. I brought wine, he said, smiling, and we settled down to eat the lunch that I had already served for us. I think that between conversations we drank the entire bottle. We were so satisfied that we preferred to lie down on the bed to rest. What perfume do you use? It smells very, very good, I told. Honestly, I think it's just my personal smell after taking a bath. I don't wear anything in particular, he answered, smiling, and I stared into his eyes for a while he looked back at me. At that moment I felt that something had awaking inside me, a wild instinct that must have been dormant all my life. I took a deep breath and pounced on him, hovering his face with kisses. I don't think. Wait. Bah, what difference does it make? I heard him babble while I kissed him. He resisted a little at first, but if I really didn't want to do it, he was able to stop me. Instead he didn't, and that was the sign I needed to know that he wanted to be with me too. The first thing he did was take off the white collar that identified him as pastor of the church, and with that gesture I knew that he was also taking off the weight that investigator represented for him. Immediately afterwards we let ourselves be carried away by our instincts. Oh my God, I said. At that moment I knew that sin had taken over us and there was no turning back, so I decided to surrender to the lowest instincts of nature. Then we would accept the punishment that God wanted to give us for that. I became that snake that forced Eva to bite the apple, and I couldn't help it. I wanted to feel that Michael was mine, completely mine. After that first meeting we frequently met at church, but we both hid it, although it was very difficult to hide the static electricity that seemed to run through us when we were in each other's presence. For a long time we exchanged glances and could almost tell what we were thinking. The Virgin Mary, he told me as he passed by, conceived without sin. I answered him, I know it may seem like blasphemy on our part, but that exchange was a kind of code that we used to meet in the same place as always, without anyone in the church being able to find out what was happening between us. I tried to be, but it's true that after that day I dressed up much more to go to church. However, I knew I was in a safe zone because in all the years we have been married, Robert has never noticed when I change my hairstyle or put on different makeup. And this would be no exception on Michael. However, that additional effort did have an effect. I could notice him looking at me more than usual in the crowd when he gave his sermons at Mass. Every time I had the opportunity, I went into the confessional to talk to him and told him what I planned to do the next time we saw each other. He just listened to me in silence and then exhorted me to pray to our fathers and a Hail Mary. Even though it was a small town, no one ever found out that the pastor and I still met without fail every day to have lunch, drink wine and sin together. After all, even men who have decided to dedicate their lives to religion have needs, and I would never again put my spirit to sleep after having tasted the sweet taste of sin. I am aware, that we may go to hell for what we did him for, betraying the church and me for being unfaithful to my husband. But as long as we were alive, at least we could enjoy some of the better feelings that really make life worth living. What did you think of what I did? I would like to know your opinion in the comments, regardless of whether it is good or bad, but it will help me reflect on what happened. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you all in my next videos. Don't forget to subscribe to receive notifications. See you soon.